Good morning guys, how is it going? Welcome back to Peru. So this is going to be the last video from Peru. Today I thought while in Peru you've got to go and do something related to the Incas. So today we're going to go and check out a couple of Inca settlements that are pretty close to downtown. It should be interesting. I've been to one of them before, but I'm keen to learn a bit more. So see you very shortly at one of these two Inca settlements. Alright then, the first one is here. So I've walked about 20 minutes from my flat in Miraflores. In front of me you can see in the middle of a residential area. This is Huaca Huallamarca. I could have absolutely butchered the pronunciation there, but this is what I came to last time. It was really interesting, but it's on a Saturday and it's really busy. So I'm thinking today is a Thursday, so it may be a little quieter, I'm hoping, but I'm going to go in and see what's going on. Slight change of plans, closed today, but this is Huaca Huallamarca. For some bizarre reason it's closed on Thursdays, but I'm going to go to the other one. You can basically see Huaca Huallamarca here, so there's a big thing in the middle that they walk you over. The route to this other place has taken me on a interesting little path. So I've never actually been to this part of town, but there's a pretty little park here. Shady little park, as in leafy shady, not shady dodgy. But there's lots of guarded buildings. Very interesting. I think it might be where all the embassies and whatnot are. And in the middle of the park there's all these little beautiful little houses leading to this one right at the end, which is pretty amazing. Then right here we have Avenida Los Incas. We've walked about another half hour and this is Huaca Huallamarca. Probably butchered that name as well, but this looks like it's the main entrance, I think. So, gonna go and find a way in. So they've got like a little museum, very small museum, which is quite cool. There's a little app you can use as well to get your guide app. But basically this is a pyramid back in the Inca days. And these are basically all the things they found within the pyramid. The settlers had musical instruments, a trumpet and whistles, like little wind instruments down here, like a pan pipe there. Funeral, false heads from funerals. That's a false wooden head that used in a funeral. And just textiles that they created. Cotton. Yeah, lots of things formed of cotton, basically. This has been here since 1960, by the look of it. This is the first flat, which has been here since 200 BC. And it was built between 200 BC and 280. It used to be known as Pan de Azuca. Okay, so this has been here for about 2,000 years. But this isn't the original. This ramp isn't the original because it was used as like a quarry. They used it as a quarry to materials, and it kind of started sinking in the 1960s, I think it was, or even earlier than that. No, earlier. During the first decades of the last century, it started to sink, basically, because it was being used as a quarry to extract the construction material. And then it was restored in the 60s. So they put in this ramp that you can now see, which wouldn't have existed back in the day. But it basically allows you to go and look at the various different platforms, which we can go and do now. So the guy who was on the front door was saying that this basically stood as like a focal point for people, so they could kind of navigate back in the day. So you'd be able to see it from miles around. So at the very top is 19 meters. And apparently it was built using over 3.5 million adobe bricks by thousands of people. And it was probably the tallest building in this area until, they reckon, the 6th or 7th century. So 600 or 700 years after Christ. Then the very top of it, the last construction stage, was apparently really intense because they had to fill walls that are 4 meters thick, which is pretty crazy. So they placed these adobe bricks in uniform horizontal layers and then covered them in mud mortar, to then be able to put another row on top, as you can see here. So I've walked around to the other side, still on the second platform, second level. Basically, when the Incas moved into this area, they modified parts of the building in order to, well, create different specialized rooms. But the main one they discovered is they turned them into kitchens. So they found burnt areas where they would store big ceramic jugs and vessels, and then also for storing food like beans and maize, and then also for fermenting drinks, chicha, which is like a fermented corn drink. So they found evidence of that. But then they would also kind of preserve food using river sand, which helped to prevent insects and food getting mouldy. So really smart, really smart, considering how long ago it was. And then they reckon that this food was used either for feeding local people who lived nearby or worked in fields, which would have been around here, would have been just fields, there are no buildings or anything, or it was used for use in funerals. So when mummies were sent into the afterlife by the Incas, they were accompanied by huge amounts of food. So they reckon that this food was used to send people on their way, and then also to feed people during the funerals and to celebrate the deceased. So really interesting. And then, oh, here's an example of, I presume, what they discovered were kitchen areas. So these big vessels were used to store and preserve food. And that looks like it used to be a kitchen area as well, so they got the big circles in the middle of the kitchen section. It's amazing that this has been here for 2,000 years and it's still super well preserved. So I'm presuming this is where people lived at the top. And we've got, back in the day, what would have been an absolutely fantastic view of Lima and the surrounding areas, because it's super flat. You would have been able to see for miles from here out to the sea and all the way across out of Lima and into Peru, I guess. These funny little things you can see here, the bundles, these are actually mummies that were given like false heads with wigs, wooden faces, painted, and then had eyes put on them that were made out of shells and seeds. In the early days of Huaca Huallamarca, it was used as a religious building. However, that stopped, they reckon, around 200 after Christ. but then from then on it's been used as an extended cemetery, which is the reason why we have all these kind of mummy bundles littered around everywhere. These mummies have kind of led to lots of scientific or archaeological research from various archaeologists and various excavations. So these mummies you can see here, they reckon date between 900 to 1100 years after Christ. And then the Incas, when they were here between 1400s, 1500s, they then used it as a large cemetery. The mummies they found there had like ropes of reed and sticks that kind of gave these bundles more stability. It's really interesting. You can see here they've got pictures of the mummies, and then this is how they found mummies buried. Constructed 200 AC, abandoned from 200 DC, and then it became a cemetery around 900 after Christ. So yeah, 1100 years ago it became a cemetery. Incas moved in 1476 for around 60 years. So this area is an example of one of the cemetery areas they found. They found around 43 funerary areas, and it was all excavated in, I think it's in 98, 99. But the area was really affected because of the gardens that were built on it. So I'm presuming someone had built over this. Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel they've not really told us much about what was here. So they must have known it was here, surely. The building itself is huge, so just imagine this whole thing being a giant cemetery. What? 600 years ago? 700 years ago? We were in fields all around. People would have lived in little towns around here, I guess. And then this would have been the cemetery. So I asked the guy in there for more information about like the origins of it and whatnot. So it was built 200 years before Christ by the original people back then. I can't remember the name of them, but is they built the first platform. So the first platform World War II, they built that, and then later on the higher platforms came in, and the Incas moved here around 1470, and basically the purpose of it has changed over the years. So every kind of new generation that came in, they changed the purpose of it, but it was used for basically anything. So until they came in and found the mummies, which I believe was in the early 19th century, in the early 20th century, they were using it for, like, to live in, to work in. But then one day they found like someone smashed through one of the roofs and found a mummy. So then the archaeologists came in and found what we now know is there as a burial site or a cemetery. So really interesting place. It's a shame that Huaca Huallamarca is not open as well, because that would have been really cool to see too, but never mind.